Well, hello. It's just me today. Um, and I'm going to talk about diamond dust and other topics. It is Tuesday, October 2024. The CEO of Amazon, Matt Garman, has told workers they have to come back physically 5 days a week and they should just quit and work at another company if they won't do it. This is an interesting and rather troubling development, I would think. The thing is, and he just seems to be lying about it. I mean, he says 90% of the employees are for it when they survey and find 91% of employees are against it. And one thing people have often said about these kind of mandates is it's just a covert way to fire your staff, which seems to be a fair statement to me. But the what you get when you fire the staff in this fashion is you lose the weakest workers because the people that will leave will be the people that can't find a better job. Your best workers will just leave. It reminds me very much of something maybe 15 years ago when the portable computers first came out, like the iPhone and the netbooks and stuff, and people started working while traveling. And therefore, they were working on a portable home device, doing company work on a personal device. And at that time, your lawyers and forensic experts would say, well, you really don't want people doing that. You want them only using the official company device for work. But what they said, I was surprised. I asked people about that, and they said, we have not implemented a strategy that says you must use the official company device because we found that all the best people will leave because they're so much more productive on these personal devices. They work while traveling that it's worth taking the risk of having company work done on unofficial devices. And I think we're back to the same situation here. This method of laying off people will lay off the people you want to keep and keep the people you want to lay off. But anyway, Amazon is going that way. There's a story about cloud storage providers here. Let me get this one up so there it is. These are end-to-end encrypted cloud storage platforms, and I don't entirely understand the attack. They say these ETH Zurich researchers tested the cloud platforms Sync, pCloud, IceDrive, cFile, and Treseret, and they found that they all have a flaw, but the flaw sounds a little extravagant. The analysis is based on the threat model of an attacker controlling a malicious server that can read, modify, and inject data at will, which they say is realistic for nation state actors and sophisticated hackers. So I guess this means a person with the storage client on their computer is connecting to a malicious server instead of the real server. And they claim that therefore, since it doesn't authenticate the key material, they can trick you into sending what you think are encrypted data up to a server, but it really can decrypt it. So I'm kind of unclear on the details of this attack, but anyway, they claim it's a serious vulnerability in these products, but most of the products do not have any plan to fix it or fix it anytime soon. So I'd I'd appreciate it if somebody would write an article explaining exactly how this works in more detail. And they say 22 million people are using these, but I'm not using any of them. I never heard of any of them. So I think it's only going to affect a certain kind of business or something. Anyway, uh, if you're using those products, that's something to know. So Donald Trump worked at McDonald's for 20 minutes. It turned out to be completely a stunt. There were no real customers. The McDonald's was shut. He stood in the window and pretended to hand out French fries and such. And an interesting article is Donald Trump did not wash his hands before working with food and said, "Oh, my hands are clean." And it turns out this particular McDonald's has, in fact, failed its last health inspection because the workers do not wash their hands as much as they're required to by law. So it kind of all makes sense. Anyway, nobody apparently was really getting real food from Trump. It was just Republican campaign workers and such pretending to be customers and such. All of his public appearances seem to be scripted. Uh, the town halls are full of fake Republican operatives and so on. It's all just basically made for TV simulations of things, which does make sense, really. He's a TV star, that's his main thing. Anyway, a Microsoft Copilot is going to bring out AI agents. And what these are is you can build a specific AI agent to replace an employee, to automate employee tasks, and you can create them with no code. So you'll be doing something, I guess, like choosing options off a menu or something. And so They have 10 ready-made ones under its dynamic 365 offering with these target roles like sales, customer service, finance, and supply chain management. So this brings up the interesting issue that the people that get replaced are the management. It seems like middle management roles are the real jobs that are going to be replaced by AI, which actually makes sense to me. I remember I talked to Liz, a college teacher, and it said, I don't think an AI could replace the teacher, but it probably could replace a lot of the college management, which just seems to do nothing but just sort of relay nonsense orders and bounce meaningless forms around. Anyway, so they claim they can minimize costly disruptions by autonomously tracking supplier performance, detecting delays, and responding accordingly. Uh, this reminds me of the OneTrust security management tool, which will automatically generate emails to your suppliers asking them to explain how they address various security issues you have. So anyway, we'll see what comes of this. It certainly does, I think, demonstrate that AI is absolutely being sold with the goal that it will eliminate employee roles so you can lay off some of your staff and save money. In case anybody believed the claims that it was not for that purpose, that's clearly the goal. But we'll see. I'm skeptical about the quality of the AI work, although a demonstration I've been using for the last several weeks of a question that befuddles Gemini AI, it no longer, student found this out, it no longer befuddles ChatGPT or Claude. And that's the question. A man and a dog are on the side of a river. They have a boat that can carry two beings. How many trips does it take to get across the river? And Gemini completely messes it up, saying it'll take 3 trips. But both Claude and ChatGPT give a clear explanation that in this case, the man and the dog can just get in the boat and cross the river. So they seem to have improved their comprehension of that statement. All right. And there's a very nice article on the Register about Dan O'Dowd from Ian Thompson. Dan O'Dowd is the guy that made Trump's unhackable phone and the Green Hills software operating system used for fighter jets that he claims is unhackable. And I wondered when I saw the unhackable claim if that actually came from the company, but it does. And Bruce Schneier has the quote that same thing any security expert would say is that anybody who claims an OS is unhackable shouldn't be trusted, simply based on the ludicrousness of the claim. But he repeats something, which I also wondered if it was incorrectly stated in the previous articles, that the entire operating system has only got 10,000 lines of code, which does seem impossible. We discussed this on Pulse Security Weekly. Android is something like 50 million lines of code. How could you get anything done with only 10,000 lines of code? But he claims that's true, and that's why it's unhackable. And it's all proprietary. You can't see the source code. So there's no actual way to measure it or test it. So I don't quite know how to interpret that. If it's really only 10,000 lines of code, it probably is very secure because that's a really small attack surface. Anyway, he talks about this, and I remember I heard about him before. This Dan O'Dowd guy actually ran for the Senate on a platform of getting rid of Tesla's self-driving. He's very, very down on Tesla self-driving. He owns Teslas and says they're good cars, but he doesn't use self-driving, which he says is just not at all good enough for the task. And he claims 40 people have been killed by self-driving and it shouldn't be on the road, which is an interesting sentiment. I tend to agree just because of all the other rotten things Elon Musk does, but I don't have any personal experience with self-driving, and I've always felt like giving it some slack on the grounds that it might be better than humans, which are not that good drivers. But the evidence is mounting that it's in fact not better than human drivers. Anyway, that's all I wanted to say about that one. And then I get to the one which I used for the title. It had the most interesting phrase anyway. It does seem clear that we are continue to burn fossil fuels, and the amount we've already burned has permanently changed the climate. So we're not going to succeed by just cutting fossil fuels in mitigating the weather catastrophe we caused on our planet. On our planet, the only thing that's going to work is to artificially cool the planet. We're going to do it now. I think we're going to need this to compensate for the pollution we put in the air. And the current favored technique is to put sulfur dioxide in the air because it's spewed naturally by volcanoes, and scientists have a pretty good idea what would actually happen if you injected it artificially. The downside is, of course, it causes acid rain and could harm the ozone layer. But people say it's sort of more natural. We kind of know what the flaws would be, but they have been trying to figure out what would happen if you used other products besides sulfur dioxide. And apparently, by far the best material is diamond powder dumped out of an airplane. 5 million tons of synthetic diamond dust per year would cool the Earth by 1.6 degrees C in 45 years. And it would have the smallest side effects, apparently. The problem is, of course, it would cost $200 trillion. So we'll see what comes of this. There are several other techniques people are talking about artificially cooling the planet. I think this is absolutely in our future. And I don't know if we'll use diamond dust or some other technique, but I think we are not going to be able to endure the consequences of letting the climate change go without mitigating it. So that's all I have today. I'll have another one of these on Friday.